everybody? Welcome back to Mysterious Pals. My name's Chris. This week, Jordan's going to be driving our ship into the mysterious unknown. You said choo-choo for a boat?
Yeah.
Isn't it hoo-hoo?
Hoo-hoo for a boat?
Hoot-hoot. Toot-toot. Give it toot.
Toot-toot. Toot-toot.
Give it toot. Don't pollute.
All aboard is coming aboard.
Well, anyway, now we got that out of the way. Welcome back, everybody. And I'm happy to see you. It's been a cold week here in this part of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Snowy. Shiver cold in the first.
Shiver cold.
Shiver cold.
Shiver me timbers.
Yeah. Toot toot, shiver me timbers. Here on the mysterious ship. Jordan, where are we going this week? How are we getting there?
We'll have to go across the pond.
Okay.
To jolly old England.
Keep your stick on the pond.
So it's a good thing we have a ship to get there, right?
Toot toot.
This week's mystery involves a civil war for succession.
Civil war.
Yep. As well as the disappearance and possible murders of heirs to a crown.
Okay, good. I love
a real whodunit, Chris.
I love fake news.
It's all right. It's not fake news, but all right. They're going to the, I said earlier, going to England, the late 15th century, so 1400s. The topic of this week's mystery is the Princes in the Tower.
1492 Ocean Blue. Christopher Columbus, right? Is this him?
No. This is the Princes in the Tower. So it sounds like it might be like a Disney movie.
Yeah. Rapunzel, let down your hair.
Yeah, some fantastical thing, but it's not that at all. It's quite
depressing
and sad.
Well, I'm sure the original Grimm's fairy tale, if that was a thing.
Yeah, I think we talked about a bunch Disney movies based on Grimm's, like those old like moral.
I think they're German folklore, folk stories, whatever.
Yeah, they're much more depressing, but Disney got them like, let's make this happy so people actually can watch
pay
this
for it.
Movie.
Yeah. I mean, they work, right?
Yeah.
Use what you got.
Yeah. I mean, clearly it works for them.
Yeah.
We're going to do a bit of a background. This is important because this plays into our mystery. So we're going to late 15th century. There's a civil war going on. The civil war in England is called War of the Roses.
Ew.
This is not that movie from the 80s.
Okay. What, really?
Yeah, there's a movie in the 80s with Michael Douglas, Danny DeVito. I can never remember her name, but she played Chandler's dad.
I have no clue. I know. I can picture her in my head.
Yeah.
But I don't know who
she has
she
like
is.
a really raspy voice. I want to say Kathleen Turner. I don't want to say that. I don't know if that's right or not. So it's called War of the Roses. It's part of the Civil War. There's a civil war going on in England. The Civil War lasted from 1455 to 1487. So during the middle of this mystery, right in the thick of all this. This war came to be known as War of the Roses. It was a 32-year war fought between two prominent English houses within the House of...
Yeah. The House of... Good...
Plantains? Yeah, the House of Plantains. Hold on. I even like wrote it out. I've read this...
Phonetically?
Yeah. For me, and it still didn't work.
So this is a group, these two houses within England.
Yeah, they're called cadets. So there's this larger house that's currently the ruling dynasty in England. I read this so many times I never really heard it pronounced.
Plantains.
Hold on.
So we're talking about two lords?
Yeah, like two like prominent houses, like they're
When
like...
you say house, are like two different castles?
No, like families.
Well, how'd they become prominent?
Because they own
land?
Well, yeah, sure. But they all had equal right, not equal, but like you can say they both had legitimacy for the English crown.
Who gave them the legitimacy?
Because it was, who was it? Shoot. Edward III, I want to say, was the king. He was the last king. He died.
Eddie III, yeah.
Eddie III. I want to say it's him. Hold on, I have to look up how to pronounce this and drive me nuts.
Well, while he's doing that, you can watch the Watch Pals or listen to the Watch Pals anywhere you get your podcast. It's a new show with Jordan and I and two other guys talking about movies. Maybe a movie about England.
I'm sure.
Two houses fighting each other for some reason.
Plantagenet. That's the current ruling house. And within that house, that family are two smaller, not smaller, but like two they call cadets.
Two smaller houses.
Two smaller houses, yeah. They all have legitimacy for the throne of England. Okay. One's Lancaster, one's York.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's a little like a
York and Lancaster, huh?
Yeah.
Different counties in Pennsylvania.
That's true. Yep.
Where we will be going
Guess where
next week.
Guess where they got their names from?
Next week, we'll be talking about Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, so 2 houses.
Yep. And they both had legitimate claims for the English throne, but of course, since they both had the claims for it, a war broke out. This went on for 30-something years. And this is following the 100 Years' War between England and France. So England's kind of like, they're not doing too good right now.
It seems like they're doing great. They're withstanding multiple wars.
Yeah, but they're also fighting each other.
Well, so when we say fighting each other, who's good? Like, how do they decide who's on each side? Like, how do they say
Based on the family.
you're my?
It's kind of like Hatfield McCoy kind of thing.
But like, how do they say who's a soldier for who? Do they get their own soldiers?
They get their own, yeah.
They just go out and
They have like their own lords below them, like their own knights and stuff like that.
so like you guys get your stuff ready.
Yeah,
you get your guys ready, and these are all people.
You're
live
on my
their
land, so you're fighting for me, kind of thing.
Okay, so it's just like it's a land.
Yeah,
thing.
and like in varying times throughout the Civil War, each house had their own king. Like not their own king, but like their house had their king that would become king of England, or their
if
own
that
person.
team won.
Yeah, if that team won a certain battle, like they'd put their house would be the ruling house of England.
This is some confusing crap.
Yes. So it's called the Roses because it's supposedly each of these 2 houses, their roses or their badges were roses.
Is that what they're fighting over? Graphic design,
One was red, one was white.
branding.
There's a lot of that's speculative.
So it's like 2 like companies fighting over the brands. It's so dumb.
While this is going on,
Glad we left.
there's one particular event in this larger conflict that's going on. Okay.
Okay.
On the 9th of April of 1483, King Edward IV, he's of the York House. He was king.
Edward the Fourth.
Edward IV. Yeah, this is going to get confusing because
Edward the Third just died.
what was it? No, he didn't just die.
Well, you said Eddie Third.
I think it was Edward III. So Edward IV at this point in time, in 1483, he was king
of
England.
Okay.
He was from the House of York.
Okay.
Apparently, he was the first king from the House of York. But April 9th of 1483, he died after weeks of suffering from an illness. How exactly he died is unknown and a bit of a mystery in itself. Theories range from poisoning to malaria to a hemorrhage. The problem with Edward's unexpected death is the timing of it. Obviously, there's a civil war going on between his house and Lancasters. There's only 2 legitimate male heirs, are only 12 and 9. So they're too young to rule. The 12-year-old is Edward V. He's the Prince of Wales. And the other is 9-year-old Prince Richard of Shrewsbury, Duke of York.
So wait, isn't that the Prince of Wales like going on now?
Yeah,
Is
usually
the same family.
No, not. And that's might be an issue later on of why. Well, we'll get into that later.
The Prince of Wales is literally the Prince of the King.
Yeah.
So if another king's in there,
usually the title of Prince of Wales is given to the heir to
the next heir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which Charles was, or because he's the king now. Yeah.
And then the other, whatever the son's name, William.
Yeah. His 2 sons are legitimate sons. Legitimate because a lot of times they were like sleeping around.
Guys,
yep.
Knocking boots.
They're too young to rule. The 12-year-old is Edward V, Prince of Wales. 9-year-old is Prince Richard of Shrewsbury, who's Duke of York. On his deathbed, King Edward IV declared that his brother Richard, so there's a bunch of Edwards and Richards, Duke of Gloucester, to become Lord Protector of Edward V and serves regent until Edward V turned 16. So the king that's dying, he's like, told his brother Richard, like, look after my son until he's 16. He's old enough to rule.
Okay.
In the meantime, you'll be the regent. You'll like rule.
Good. Good plan. Always a good plan.
And this happens a lot throughout history.
Because people love giving up power.
Yeah. It is believed that the boy's uncle, Richard, swore fealty to Edward V in the days following Edward's death.
Okay. So Uncle Dick said, I'm going to follow you. Okay.
It's a very suitable name,
yes,
apparently, for this guy. On April 29th of 1483, Edward V was on his way to London for his coronation. It was only 20 days later after his father died. He's going to be crowned king. But again, he wouldn't rule for another 3 years. But the idea was like, he's going to show up in London. Be like, hey, I'm king. Just to like show that this family's going on. like kind of a power play, I guess. Kind of like I'm the next king.
Just like make it the record known.
Yeah,
set the record
that
straight.
point of it. Yeah,
It's so crazy the way it works. Is like, why wouldn't someone else just be like, no, you know what? He's not here yet. I'm the king. Like, how does it all? How do they keep this track of this crap? Like, who's next in line?
it's always the firstborn son
But like of a different county though.
of a different county.
Like who says that this family is the one that's ruling?
It's whoever got power in the first place.
Okay, so they're
Yeah.
just they say who's next.
Yeah, and that's why this whole civil
Okay.
war was going on in the first place. Because someone's like, no, I'm supposed to be king because my uncle on my mother's side, dad was king, and then another person's like, no, my cousin married this person. You know, it's like people get married off. People have kids. They're supposed to be heirs. It's like it gets like very fickle
Stupid.
and gray. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of gray area.
I think we don't have this anymore.
So Edward V, who's supposed to be king, on April 29th, is on his way to London because he wasn't in London. That's where everyone was ruling, or the king lived at the time. He's going there to be coronated. With him is his maternal uncle Anthony Woodville and his half brother Sir Richard Grey. He's a half brother.
Another brother?
It's a half brother. So it's important to mention here that the two princes' parentage was a bit of a scandal.
Yeah, seems like it.
Their father, as mentioned, was Edward IV of York. Their mother, however, was a Lancaster.
This is just Game of Thrones.
We had Game of Thrones, Romeo and Juliet kind of stuff. Yeah.
This is all.
And everyone's name's the same or sounds the name.
And they're all half brothers of
Yeah,
this guy.
yeah.
Yeah, this is
Everyone's sleeping around.
scandalous.
Yeah. Their father was Edward IV of York. Their mother was a Lancaster. Her name was Elizabeth Woodville. That's not the only scandalous part of this whole the marriage, though. What even made it more scandalous was the fact that they were married in secret.
Wait, who?
Edward IV and Elizabeth Woodville.
The half brother?
No. Elizabeth Woodville, she had kids from
Okay.
a previous marriage.
Oh God.
So she was previously married with children, and she was of ordinary status. So she wasn't like royalty.
Hey, let me just.
These are taboos because the future bride of a king is supposed to be a virgin, unmarried, and of noble status. She was none of these things. She's a widower.
Listen out there, kids. Wrap it up. Makes things way less confusing. Okay? Practice safe.
Yeah.
Safely. Practice safely.
The more you know. Your mysterious pals are looking out for you, kids.
Yeah, wrap it up. She says she loves you.
Yeah.
You know,
Doesn't matter. Just still wrap it up.
just wrap it up.
It goes for both sides.
Both ways.
Yeah.
Wrap both up. Just wrap everything up.
Just
Leave your clothes on.
wrap, yeah.
Just watch a movie and then listen to Watch Pals.
You live this long enough, you never want to have sex ever again. So furthermore, also though, Edward IV had a previous marriage contract with an Eleanor Talbot. So all right, so here we go. This is scandals. I'm gonna break it down here. He's previously supposed to wed another woman. Okay. And when he did marry, it was done in secret. She was not of noble status. She was previously married, already had kids, wasn't a virgin. This is all big like no-nos. It's taboo. They got married in secret. The reason why I bring this up is because it calls the legitimacy of Edward V and Prince Richard's claims of the throne into question.
Okay.
So it means Edward IV's kids are like, people are like, are they really legitimate? Because he's supposed to marry this other
the
woman.
Bloodline.
Yep.
If they would have had DNA testing back then, this would have been figured out.
Well, yeah, even more so because like what happens later on. So again, it's April 29th. Edward and his relatives are on their way to London so he could be sworn in, not sworn in. Coronated, thank you.
What year?
1483. So it's only 20 days after his father died.
Okay.
So Edward V, he's not with his brother. His brother's with his mom somewhere else. Edward V is with his uncle, his half brother.
And uncle's the regent.
His maternal uncle.
A different uncle.
Yeah, his mom's brother.
Okay.
Richard, the Uncle Richard on his Edward's.
The regent or not the regent?
The regent, yes.
Okay.
Decides to intercept their envoy. He arrests Edward's uncle and half brother on the grounds of treason.
Okay. Perfect.
Despite Edward being like, no, what are you doing? Like he knows these people. I don't think he might have never even met Richard, his uncle, ever before. Despite Edward's objections to this, relatives are sent away and beheaded. Richard then brings Edward to London, where he's placed in the Tower of London.
Okay. Is he the girl in the tower?
He's Rapunzel.
Yeah.
So the Tower of London, I think most people know it as being a prison. Like people were apparently tortured there, imprisoned, but it was known to be a place that a future king was securely put before the coronation.
In jail. This is a weird place.
It's also there's a residence there for.
Okay, so it's like jail, house, kitchen.
Yeah, it was a castle,
bathroom.
So Richard, and this is done before. Richard's like, I'm putting you here, keep you safe until you're coronated, in case something happens to you. That's what he says. Apparently.
That's what he says. Is this the Man in Iron Mask?
There are some similarities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, the boy's mother Elizabeth hears about this. He takes the other Richard, like Edward's future king's brother, and they go hide out in Westminster Abbey because she's like, "Oh, someone's trying to kill us. So take our legitimacy away from our future away." However, though, young Richard, Edward's brother, was eventually also taken to the Tower of London. During this time, Edward's coronation got pushed back. In 1484, a decision by Parliament concluded that Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth was invalid due to his previous marriage contract to Eleanor Butler, or Talbot, I think it was Talbot, thus making Edward V and his brother Richard illegitimate heirs.
So wait, the Parliament? There's a Parliament too?
Yeah.
What's the Parliament doing? They're just like all the House of Lords? Like a bunch of...
I think, I don't know if it's the exact same as it is now. Like they have more power now.
Okay.
They run the country, they run England now. But back then, the king kind of had more power, but there was a parliament.
Okay.
So they decide, hey, these kids aren't legitimate because the now deceased king was like, hey, was supposed to marry this other woman. So these boys are considered illegitimate. And in doing so, they say their uncle, Richard, is the rightful heir. And he is crowned King Richard in July of 1483.
King Richard, that's the Lionheart guy?
No, that was King Richard I. He's King Richard III.
Oh, what a nerd.
However, though, King Richard III would later be killed in battle in 1485.
So 2 years later, he's on king. Oh my God.
Which would ultimately lead to the end of the war, the Civil War, the end of the Plantagenet dynasty, the beginning of the Tudor dynasty.
Okay, wait. So let's take a little wink at this. So there's a civil war going on between two major houses.
Yep.
They're both saying they're kings.
Both saying they have
legitimate right to the throne. Yep. And then there's this other internal strife going on with the leading group house.
Yep.
And that does have the king, Edward III, fourth.
Yeah.
And then dies. His kid is like, I'm next in line, but his uncle takes over and kills them because they're illegitimate.
Well, he doesn't necessarily kill them.
Not yet. Well, one of them.
Yeah. Well, no.
Something happens.
Neither of them are killed.
Okay, something happens.
As of right now.
Okay. And then this other war is still raging.
Yeah, there's still civil war going on. Yeah. So
this has to be like a TV show. This is like insane.
Yeah. There's a Henry the Tudor.
Like Tudor's Biscuit World?
Tudor. Tudor's Biscuit World?
It's like in West Virginia. It's like a fast food restaurant with biscuits.
That sounds amazing.
It's like biscuits and gravy and stuff.
Oh, that's great. Tudor's
Yeah, everybody I know loves that place.
Great, but I want to go there.
It's like one of those this place is gross, but the food's delicious, I guess, is what happens. I can't eat it, but everybody loves it.
So yeah, it's during the Civil War that Richard III dies. He dies in battle to a Henry Tudor.
Tudor, yeah.
Are you familiar with the Tudors at all?
There's a TV show on HBO, I think.
Yeah,
I never watched it.
Showtime, I think.
Something.
Yeah, the most famous one is Henry VIII. He's the one that he decided that he broke away from the Catholic Church, created the Church of England because you can't get married again. He's like, I'm making my own church, and he beheaded a bunch of his wives.
What year was this?
So this all ended the whole war ended in 1487. Henry Tudor became Henry VII. His son was Henry VIII.
Okay.
And also Queen Elizabeth I was part of the Tudors. Anyways.
Queen Elizabeth was a Tudor? The one that just died?
No. The OG one. The Virgin Queen? I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
Mary? He wasn't a Tudor. That was Jesus.
That's baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus and Joseph. Joey.
There was a Mary, but that was part of the Tudors, apparently.
Okay. So there's...
So anyway, so Richard III dies. That whole house gets wiped out.
Really?
The plantation. I can't remember.
Plantation.
Yeah. He ends up uniting the houses. He ends up marrying Henry Tudor. Ends up marrying the boy's sister, Elizabeth.
Okay.
That kind of solidifies the two houses once and for all. Starts the Tudor dynasty. Okay.
Okay. Tudor dynasty.
So, as of right now, what do you think happened to these two boys? Because they're put in the Tower of London.
Okay. So there's...
Apparently that summer, people stopped seeing the kids in the tower.
Okay. So Edward V.
And his little brother.
I thought they took his little brother. They took his half brother.
They killed his half brother.
Okay, but
Richard
Edward,
had his half
and then
brother killed.
his mom ran away.
Yeah,
and that had another kid with her.
No. Oh yeah. His mom ran away. Had Richard, the 9-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Edward V, who's supposed to be king, and his brother Richard, who was 9.
And
Richard
so
of York.
they were separated. One was at Westminster Abbey. One was in Tower of London.
Yeah. Eventually, Richard was put in Tower of London as well.
Okay. So. Okay. And then where was the mom at?
The mom, she hung around in London, but I think she ended up dying like 11 or...
It doesn't matter.
She died from the plague.
So she died.
From the plague, yeah.
Okay. So we're dealing with these two boys that are in the Tower of London.
They're heirs apparent to English crown. But then Parliament was like, yeah, these guys are illegitimate because their dad was supposed to be married to another woman.
Okay, so now we have...
And their uncle became king. But he ended up dying.
And then the Tudor guy comes in.
Yep.
What does he do with these two boys?
I don't know. What do you think happened to him in the tower? Eventually, they stopped. People were like, we don't see them.
They stopped looking out the window or something?
They kept being seen less and less. Reports of them being seen in the tower were less and less.
Because who's like hanging out with them? Like who's their...
They would imagine they had caretakers.
Okay, they were just hanging out there.
Yeah.
It was a castle. They probably got bored and left. Like, this sucks.
It was a castle. And people are coming and going in and out of this castle. So like people were seeing them, and eventually they're just like, no one's seen these kids for a while. It's kind of weird.
They probably just took off of the beach or something. They were just like, this sucks. I'm going to go live at the beach. I think they probably just got killed.
Okay.
I think someone just killed him. The Richard Tudor was just like, hey, I don't want to know. I don't want to see him anymore. They could have been hanging around to like teenagers. He's probably like, all right, guys, just get the hell out of here. Take some cash and leave.
Yeah, apparently their mom gave Richard to their uncle Richard. So why would she do that?
Richard the Tudor?
No, Richard Henry was a Tudor.
Okay.
Richard was their uncle. There's the Prince Richard.
The one that died.
Yeah.
So he probably gave him up. She gave him up, and they both just hung out the castle. She took off. She just took off.
But why do you think she would give their uncle?
She's like, I have no reason to hang out with these guys anymore. They're not kings. I don't know. Is she a gold digger? I have no clue. You afraid they were going to get killed?
Yeah, but she's also worried that they their whole family is be destroyed. So why would she give over her other son if their other one was?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know.
So you think these boys are killed?
I think these eventually got killed.
Okay.
Like, what else would they do with them?
We're gonna go over that right now.
Go hang out, Chris. Work at a Kogo's or something. Like, I don't know.
They're all picking potatoes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into theories. Here we go. So the most prominent theory, most likely, the one that most scholars and historians think is that Richard III, their uncle, had him killed.
The third before he died.
Yeah.
Okay.
Richard III had strong motives to eliminate Edward V and Richard of Shrewsbury, or Richard of York.
So yeah, because I was wondering why would the Tudor let him hang around if they were from the previous administration?
So yeah, Richard III was of the same family. Henry, the Tudor, is different. We'll go into that though. Richard III, maybe he had him killed to legitimize his rule.
Yeah, no question about it.
So let's be honest. All throughout history, all cultures or whatever, people kill each other for power.
Yeah.
But apparently, this at the time was kind of big because you're willing to kill kids.
Well,
which I'm sure has happened before prior to this. It's definitely happened after that.
Well, and you can't even say they did. It could be I don't like what's that plausible deniability? Like I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true. Yeah, he's like I put them in the tower. I was
yeah,
keeping them. They
I
were
didn't say
safe.
I didn't. I
They were
just said,
safe when I put them in there.
and even
They were
behind
alive.
closed doors, he was like, "Hey, can you just get rid of those guys?" Like he didn't say like kill them. He just said get rid of them.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have.
Shut them up. Keep them up there.
Could he give them to France and be like, "Here you go, drop them off in France"?
Maybe because like even like that house.
So I don't think back in this day,
Plantagenet or whatever.
Plantagenet.
That's a French
Plantagen.
origin.
So because I was wondering, like, it's not like
that's why the 100 Years' War is going on, because there's this constant like French had a claim to the English throne. Now, while that's going on, they have these houses in England who are like, well, we have like this house has a claim to it. This house is like through all this like years and years of like marrying off people and people dying and like kids having kids. It's like who actually has a true claim to
it's
the
just a
throne?
mess.
Yeah. Yes.
Whoever has the strongest arm at that
So
point.
he can essentially just be like, yeah, I put them in the tower. They were
they
fine
were-
when I
they
put them in there.
yeah.
They're alive. I'm just keeping them safe up there. So the theory is like this legitimizes his rule. As long as the princes were alive, they pose a direct threat to his claim to the throne. Because if his brother didn't have these kids, he would have been next in line.
Right. And if Parliament changes their mind, they can flip on him.
Yeah. Although Richard declared them illegitimate, based on the claim that their father Edward IV had a pre-contract of marriage, many nobles remained loyal to the sons of Edward IV. He's like, if that's the case, like you have to kill them off. Richard faced uprisings during his reign, notably the rebellion led by the Duke of Buckingham in 1483. Removing the princes would have reduced the risk of future Yorkist rebellion rallying around them. Richard was experienced in politics and warfare and understood the risk of leaving the rivals alive. Killing princes would have been the simplest way to secure his hold on the throne.
Okay. Yeah, that makes the most sense.
So the princes were last seen in the Tower of London in the summer of 1483.
Okay, that was my question I couldn't think of earlier that I thought of and then I couldn't bring it out of my mouth.
So they vanished from public view shortly after Richard's coronation in July of 1483.
Okay, then that's absolutely he killed him.
This disappearance is highly suspicious and coincides with Richard consolidating his power. This is a weird thing. I was like, that's kind of weird, like his behavior, because he did not produce the princes to quell rumors of their deaths. So like rumors are going around like, why aren't we seeing these guys? Like,
yeah, he killed them.
He's like, so why, if he didn't kill them, why would he be like, here they are, they're alive, they're fine.
Because then it's saying, look, they could still be like, they're still living in royalty. Yeah. Why? They're not legitimate.
But they like, so even though Parliament said they were legitimate, he's saying they're legitimate. They still have a lot of supporters.
Okay. So you have to get rid of them. That's like the most kingly thing to do.
And rebellions arose because of this, but he never even said like, hey, they're fine or they're dead, either one way or the other. He just kind of kept his mouth shut, which is kind of weird. So there's some contemporary accounts going on during this time. Dominic Mancini, an Italian cleric, visited England during all this. He wrote that the princes were confined in the tower and that their servants were dismissed. Again, this is a tower. I know it's like the Tower of London, but like they still had the still castle. There's still living quarters for people of nobility, particularly the crown. He noted that their servants were dismissed, leaving them isolated, which is kind of rare to do that unless they're actual prisoners. Mancini suggests the boys' fate caused widespread suspicion and fear. Later chroniclers, such as Sir Thomas More, are you familiar with old Thomas More?
Nope.
He was a close friend to Henry VIII. He's like part of his cabinet. Henry VIII had him beheaded because he disagreed with Henry VIII separating from the Catholic Church.
Oh, okay.
Make his own church. So Sir Thomas More, he believes that Richard ordered the murders of the boys. In the early 16th century, Sir Thomas More wrote that Richard III ordered the princes to be smothered in their sleep by two men. James Tyrrell, a loyal servant to Richard III, allegedly confessed to the murder under Henry VII's reign. This is Henry Tudor, who won this whole end of the Civil War, basically. According to More, Tyrrell hired Miles Force and John Dighton to carry out the crime. And recently, I think within this year, someone discovered a will from 1522 that might support this.
1522?
A will from 1522 is in some archive. The will of a Lady Margaret Capel makes mention that her son shall inherit her husband's cross. Apparently, it was the cross of Edward V. Lady Margaret is a sister-in-law to James Tyrrell.
Okay.
So how would she get the possession of this king's cross?
Oh.
If James Tyrrell didn't have something to do with the murders of the boys.
The boys were murdered, supposedly. That's what
this is this argument.
But if these like two prominent kids, well, I guess they're not prominent anymore, right? If they get, their thought is like eventually they grow up to be
if they're deemed
stronger than their uncle, and then they go raise an army and come after them,
right?
Because I mean,
even if they're
teenage boys and early 20-age boys are the craziest people on the planet.
Even if they're deemed as illegitimate, like it's still like I mentioned, like they have people still supporting them. So like if you did keep them alive, or with the possibility of them escaping or getting enough support, like that could be detrimental to his
it'd be smart
role.
to have him killed in this time of human history.
But he's smart to having someone else do it.
Of course, you never do it yourself.
Yeah.
Get your hands bloody. You're the king. You just say, hey, I want this to be done. It'd be great if we didn't see them anymore.
Right.
And that's just us seeing, like, that's just me thinking of the way history, is told to us in the history books that everybody's just murdering everybody. Maybe he was just like, hey, can you just go drop his kids off in France, give them a nice family or convent, or, put them at, give them to like let them be priests or something.
Oh,
They could have been dropped off somewhere nice.
Sure.
So
one of the reasons why this theory is so popular is because of William Shakespeare.
Oh, Willie.
Yeah, he wrote a play called Richard III, and he portrays Richard as villainous, power hungry, and a murderer. But he's one of the first people to like push the thing out, like in the people's minds that he was this terrible person.
Is that why this is actually written as a William Shakespeare thing? So that's why this seems like it's so crazy, because he wrote it as a play or something?
Well, the portrayal of Richard III, I think he took a lot of like.
But this story doesn't come from him.
No. Yeah. The story actually comes from Sir Thomas More.
Okay.
And it's believed that he because he supported the Tudors, that it was propaganda pushed by the Tudors to like make that previous lineage look terrible, to legitimize the Tudors' claim to the throne.
Yeah, like it has to make, you have to make the what's that called? The winners get the right history.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. In 1674, some skeletons were found in the Tower of London underneath a staircase.
What if these kids just like fell down the steps? So like it was like a tragic thing. Like they like, got stuck in a pipe or something somewhere, and they're like, we haven't seen them. Where they been? God, boy, like they were really
drain pipe.
Really in the background. The Tudor king is like, I'm so worried about the boys. Where are they? Like Richard was like, where's my nephews? I want to know right now. Find them. And like, maybe that's how it went. And they got stuck and something tragic happened.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Maybe they fell on the steps, and of course it's not how it happened.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. They could have just died there, like, again, accidentally or just natural causes, because, again, it was a prison. That's one of the things, like, if they're in this place, like, I know they were, probably in a nice part of this castle, but, like, it was also a prison, so there could have been, like, diseases going around, because those prisoners aren't bathing, I'm assuming.
Prisoner broke out and just strangled them,
Yeah, and then, like, rather than, like, having, again, they're considered illegitimate, so rather than having this, like, this grand funerary procession for these kids that are considered illegitimate, they're just like, they're dead. They're nobodies, just like bury them somewhere. But in 1674, they did find two skeletons underneath a staircase in the Tower of London. Apparently looked like small children.
Wait, where was it? Under a staircase?
Under a staircase. Those bones were then taken by, well, not by the king, but I think it was Charles II was like, hey, put these somewhere else because
they're stinking up the place.
For what he said. But these bones have never been DNA tested.
Okay.
Even though they're like these look to be the bones of children right around the age of 12 and 9. They have no DNA testing or like what other testing you do on bones. Carbon dating, maybe. I don't know. They've never been tested. And like it's kind of one of those things where like, why hasn't the current English monarchy been like, yeah, test them? This is where conspiracy things kind of come in. Like,
because it illegitimizes them?
Maybe, yeah. Because it would change the whole future. That changes the whole like lineage.
Oh, right? No, because it could just be like,
because they're Windsors, but like after the Tudors were the Stuarts, and after that was like, this whole other.
Yeah, but like whoever wins, like, the strongest guy wins anyway. So
yeah. So they call into question like their own legitimacy. That's conspiracy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, also, I think part of it's too just like let these bones rest. Like, gotta stop.
I mean, you can test them just for historical reasons.
Did you know they found Richard III's body in like they were like, I think either removing or like digging up like a parking garage or building a parking garage. They found his bones. This was like 10 years ago, maybe. It's brought up this whole thing again.
He was the guy that so he died. He was the kid's dad.
Richard III was their uncle that supposedly had them killed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in like a car park or something like that. They found his body.
I mean, everything's just buried on top. I mean, especially old cities like that, there's built on top of his crap, you know?
Yeah. There's like layers and layers of cities.
Yeah.
All right. So the other theory mentioned they think he might have died from natural causes, just from being in this like gross place. The next theory is that Henry the Tudor, or Henry VII, who came to be known once he was king, he might have had them killed.
Think? Why would, I guess that
secure his throne.
Makes sense.
Henry VII's claim to the throne was weak. He was descended from an illegitimate branch of the Lancastrian line through his mother, Margaret Beaufort. The sons of Edward IV, the princes, had a far stronger claim to the throne, especially if Richard III's declaration of the legitimacy could be overturned.
So this is like, no one was legitimate in this time. And like,
I mean, everyone was and everyone was at the same time.
That's what I mean. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just so, like throwing a dart.
They had to have those kids killed because they had.
That person works.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it seems like everybody is no one's really a direct descendant of like someone of nobility.
No.
Because those guys were crushing everything, so that it could have been anybody's anybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
For the king, you're smashing it all.
Just throwing it in whatever they could.
But also, you couldn't tell if a kid wasn't yours, right?
So apparently the boys' dad might have been illegitimate too.
That's what I mean. Like, everybody was.
Yeah, because I remember reading that like him and his siblings did not look like the dad, but brother Richard III did. I think that kind of played in some of this stuff. So Henry married Elizabeth of York, the prince's sister, unite the warring houses of York and Lancaster. However, survival of the princes could have allowed Yorkists to rally behind them as the rightful heirs, undermining Henry's position. Again, this goes into the Tudor propaganda thing with Saint Maur.
Did Saint Maur like the Tudors?
Yes, yeah. Until he got beheaded by one.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
he did. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation. Like,
why would he write this?
This was written years after the fact, and he was like in good with the family. So maybe he was doing this as kind of like a propaganda kind of thing. Like, oh, they're legitimate. This is why, because this family was, wiped out, and like they didn't follow the rules of marriage or stuff like that.
Okay, so like everyone was
bad.
Okay.
Yeah. This will be the last one we talk about. The boys actually escaped. The princes may have had allies within Richard III's court among the guards in the tower who helped them escape. Some historians speculate that loyalists to the prince's mother, Elizabeth Woodville, may have arranged their rescue. She retained influence in court despite Richard III's actions. If they escaped, they may have been sent abroad or hidden anonymity within England. Given the political turmoil of the time, maintaining secrecy would have been crucial to avoid becoming pawns in future power struggles.
That seems the most Hollywood version of the story.
Yeah. There was a lack of bodies. No one found bodies until 1674, but like DNA testing still hasn't been done, so we don't know if those are actually the boys' bodies. They could have been any bodies. This is also a prison. There was a Perkin Warbeck who came up.
Who?
Perkin Warbeck. He claimed to be Richard of Shrewsbury, the younger brother.
Perkin Warbeck.
His story gained substantial support, including backing from Margaret of Burgundy, the sister of Edward IV, and the other European powers.
That seems like a made-up name.
Yeah. This suggests that some believe the younger prince had survived. Warbeck's detailed account of his supposed life as Richard bolstered his credibility in some circles, though his claim was ultimately discredited and he was executed in 1499.
Okay, well. He was executed just for saying he was the king?
Yeah.
Even though they couldn't prove it. Either way.
Apparently, yeah. Elizabeth Woodville, mother of the princes, reconciled with Richard III in 1484, agreeing to have her daughters join Richard's court. Some historians suggest this could indicate she believed her sons were alive and safe.
Or she didn't want to get murdered.
Or she's negotiating for their safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, again, she gave her youngest son, Richard, the other Richard, was put in a tower, but she allowed her daughter to be married off eventually.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that was probably more of a like a family survival kind of thing at that point.
Yeah. You just do whatever you can.
Right. Some accounts suggest Edward V, who's the one who's supposed to be king, as the elder and more valuable heir, may have secretly been rescued and lived under a false identity.
Do you think if you would have been one of these kids, would you ever say who you are?
Oh, no.
Because you need to be murdered as soon as you.
Oh, you did? Yeah. I mean, I'd be very careful about who I told that to, but like again, like feel like people are constantly backstabbing each other during this time. So it's like I would probably just shut my mouth and like.
Yeah, because like if you weren't gonna raise an army, what if you lost?
But what do these boys do? Like they don't have their
skills.
Yeah. Their raises like future,
Yeah, you figure
princes
like
and kings. Like what skills do they have to survive?
even when a king loses and gets kicked out, he's still gonna go live somewhere.
Oh yeah, when they get banished in exile, they have like a great freaking life. The rest of
they
their
just
life.
go live in the mountains or something.
Oh, my castle's smaller. I don't have as many servants, but like you don't have to do shit.
You don't have to actually do any work. Yeah. I don't know. So were those all the theories?
There was more, but some are just silly.
What do you think happened?
I think they were definitely killed.
By who?
I think Richard III had something to do with their death.
Like he was the one who said get rid of them.
Yeah, I don't think he personally did it, but he's like, his kids.
I don't think he actually did it. So I want to say they escaped because that'd be the good part of the story. Because again, we in our society right now, like the stories that we've heard of this, of living in the knights and kings and era, everybody is stabbing everybody in the back. So you want to think that like, oh, he just had him killed, but maybe because he's like they're actually his bloodline some way. Probably like, hey, can you just go live somewhere else?
Yeah,
and that way nothing
go somewhere else.
Like, I'll take care of this crap over here. This is a nightmare being a king. Can you please just go? Like, seems like who wants to be a king? You need to be a psychopath.
Yeah, it sounds awful, man.
It's like a person who wants to be like a politician in America.
It's weird because like, yeah.
Like that's a psychopath.
But like people like they're like, I'm the firstborn. I have the right to this. But like, why would you really want that?
No.
You already have a good life.
And you would have a great life.
Richard he became Richard III, but like he already had a great life, I'm assuming, because like he was a prince.
Yeah.
He's like, my brother is the king. I'm probably living really well.
Oh yeah, you're never gonna work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You have to like you look after like, oh, get off my land.
Yeah, you're gonna get this other smallerish castle that's still a castle, like you said.
You still have power, you still have money, you still have influence. Like
you're still gonna have servants.
I don't know. Like maybe that's just maybe more of a modern thinking. I don't know. Is someone not like brought up in that?
I would think that humanity was better than that, but probably not. They probably just had him killed. I mean, really, in this time, in medieval times, the Middle Ages, were they all just knocking each other off, like killing everybody was just killing everybody, stabbing each other back? Or is that just something
30 years, yeah.
But like, well, I'm saying like in the family wise to be king, like, or was that something that like Shakespeare made up and brought into the modern conscious?
Well, he definitely brought in the modern
consciousness,
but like it was happening. I'm not saying all the time, but it definitely happened.
Was everybody always trying to stab everybody in the back when it comes to like?
Not always, but it definitely happened a lot. Okay. Yeah.
I wish we could go back in time and just be like, oh no, you be king. No, you be king. Like everyone's just so nice about it. Now we just became insane people.
Yeah.
And we're always arguing about crap, but I don't know.
Yeah, because people abdicating the throne is a rarity. Like it was so rare that a king was like, I don't want this. But more often than not, people are like, I want it. I'll kill someone for it.
Yeah.
It's my turn.
It's power,
you know. It's interesting to think that like more often than not, people are like, I'll take that rather than I don't want it.
The greed of it.
Yeah.
I think, you would hope people weren't being greedy as much as they are, especially back then. But I guess there's less people being greedy because they're all fighting over a throne.
Yeah, everyone's dying.
Yeah. And it would suck so bad to be in a fight, like in a war back then. You're just like stabbing each other with metal. It sucks.
Yeah, and those blades weren't like sharp. They were more blunt.
You're just getting your butt kicked in.
Like those like broadswords, like you're not cutting someone with that. You're just breaking their bones when you hit them with it.
Yeah, and they're just like, oh my God, this sucks.
Maybe you could hit them with the pointy end, but like, yeah, that's... Ugh.
And there were sharp swords, but they weren't cutting through like we think they were.
No.
I mean...
Movies kind of like...
Yeah, like the bow and arrow, like that was powerful.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big deal. I mean, like we've talked about before, that the whole castles thing stopped once people figure out how to shoot big, heavy balls at the walls. That's why they stopped building castles.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, we can't do this anymore because gunpowder and cannons.
Yeah.
Then they stopped building castles, and they had to figure out other ways to fight.
Yeah.
So
So I do think they were killed, whether it was Richard III or the Henry Tudor.
Someone had them killed.
Oh, I definitely had.
You don't think they escaped or were given up? Like, hey, you go live here for the rest of your life.
No,
I think they would have been found out eventually.
Someone would have had to find one of them, right?
Or maybe if they went to a different country, or you think there were records of them somewhere.
Yeah.
Or there's so much crap everywhere in the world. We don't know if like they went and lived in Germany or whatever at the time it was called.
Yeah.
Living in a state villa or something, like this is the king's brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins.
Yeah.
They're gonna live in this place. People do go undercover, like, witness protection, maybe. Back then it wasn't as prominent. I don't know. Also, there's not like it's not like they could have been priests or monks.
Which, I mean, did happen. Like a lot of times, like people are like, you have to give up your claim, and like,
or they just disappeared into that. Like, you go away, and the guy that was sent to kill him was like, hey guys, listen, I'm gonna take you to the woods, go somewhere else.
Do you think that? I don't think that happened very often. I mean, it could have definitely happened.
People were that bloodthirsty back then. I would hope humans weren't that bloodthirsty back then.
I mean, I hope so too.
I guess if the king told you to do it, and if you didn't do it, you were gonna be killed. So you might as well do it.
Yeah.
If those boys came back, he's like, Dave, what the hell?
You're supposed to kill him, man.
What's he doing here, bro?
Dave. Hey, Dave.
Dave.
We gotta have a talk, buddy. This is going on your report.
You told me.
This is going in your file.
We're gonna talk about this at our next meeting.
Dave.
All right.
I think I would like to believe they got out, lived a great life somewhere, but
doubt it. Yeah. Because if anything tells me is movies and videos and books movies or books ever told me anything, it was they escaped, and then Dave let them go. They escaped, and they raised an army, came back, and had a fight to the death with his uncle. And
Napoleon did that. He's like, he got exiled. He's like, I'm coming back and murdering everybody. But that's overrated. I think they're dead.
Yeah.
Also, just why is no one like? Apparently, there's
no one cares.
Petition to go around like, hey, let's do some DNA testing.
Yeah,
it's got shot down, which is weird.
Who owns those bones of Richard III?
That's a good question.
Because maybe someone owns them, and they're like, no, you can't do that.
Whoa.
Or who owns the bones of those boys?
The boys, they're they're buried.
Well, here's the other thing:
where they're at. But they're in like some like not sacred, but like they're like a prominent
Westminster Abbey type of place.
Yeah, something like that. I think
but also, if someone looked at the bones, they're like, they're just small men. Like they're just like this is look at these bones. Like
they're small men.
They're just like guys that have been malnourished because they were in jail. Like who knows?
I mean, maybe yeah.
Like the occipital bone of the I don't even know what it is.
Occipital?
Yeah,
is that a thing?
It's a bone.
Oh, all right, look at that.
I think it's like
I never heard of that.
One of these.
It's like
it's in the body. I know that.
In my body.
I think it's a type of bone. I'm not sure. Anyway,
it sounds good to me, man.
Maybe they just like the scientists, the people that found the kids were just like, or the body, the bones were just like, there's like a bunch of bones down here. Some of them are kids, some of them are adults. Like there's just a mess.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's just a place where they dumped bodies or some. It was like the body chute and it got clogged up at this point.
Maybe they tried to escape through the body chute and died.
Yeah, like
you were saying earlier.
Yeah, maybe they fell on the steps and no one's found them.
Yeah. Maybe
there's a trap door on the steps.
I think the idea why this is so fascinating because they were just kids. Like I'm sure as I mentioned earlier, this happened before. It's probably happened after. Or like
still happens today.
Yeah, these are the heirs, but like I think that's what sticks with people is like, oh, they're just small kids.
Well,
what do they ever do to anybody?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like you said,
I think the reason why this whole thing endures and like there's no definitive answer.
What happened to those guys?
Yeah, but even if they did do DNA testing, it still doesn't. You still won't know how they died, right?
Well, but you could probably figure
out who they were, but you wouldn't figure out how they died.
But you could probably figure out based on the bones how old they were.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I'm saying. You can figure out like if their ages are the same, like, oh, they were them, but you also want to know how they died, Who killed
Oh
him.
yeah, unless there's
Which I
like
think is still kind of
unless there's
fascinating.
like a hole in the skull and they're like, oh, they got their head bashed in, or like
Yeah.
like normally you could tell if there's like if they got cut
Sure. Yeah.
somewhere.
But it's still, you still wouldn't tell you who killed him.
No,
Yeah.
of course not. I can only give you so much. I'm telling you how you can figure something out. But.
I know that's what I'm saying. All right, let's wrap this up.
All right, Jordan, thank you for confusing the hell out of me.
Yeah, sorry with you stuck with us. I thank you. I apologize about the similar names. It's very much Game of Thrones, so they all sound like the exact same.
So what's the name of the story again?
The Princess in the Tower.
Okay, Princess in the Tower, not the princess in the tower. It's
No.
the princes in the tower.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it's not a very happy ending, unfortunately.
There's
well,
no
depending
ending.
on who you are.
Yeah, if you're a tutor, it's great, but
you did all right, tutors.
Yeah. All right, Jordan, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, everybody out there, thank you for being here, watching or listening, however you got this information. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on every other podcast platform. If you want to know more about this or other episodes, they're all on those feeds. Give us a follow, give us a like, whatever you can do to help us out. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. We love you. Jordan, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you all for listening and watching or whatever you're doing.
And we will see you next time. Same serious time, same serious place. Same serious pals.
See you.